Thank you so much. You've built 1.4 million following on Instagram, which is unbelievable. Can you give everyone a bit of an intro on who you are and what you do?
Hello, my name's Lorna. I've been on Instagram about 11 years, but I'd say commercially I've probably been on it about 6 years. And it just started as a hobby. I was that girl that would take a picture of my outfit of the day every morning before work, set off, and then in the evening I'd sit and chat to people about how great my outfit looked. And I quickly built this lovely community of people that I was chatting to 10 years ago, I still speak to today. And I think the point of difference for me as a creator, if you like, was that I did reply to all my DMs, which is a bit of a scary thing for a lot of creators, because one thing no woman wants to hear is you get criticism and whatnot. And I kind of faced it head on. So that was like my USP, if you like. And I think that's why I've built my organic growth in that sense, because I held on to my original community. And then it was a bit like an onion. I would just build it and build it and build it, but always retaining the original, community that I started with. So we're 11 years deep now. I'm still doing exactly the same thing. I'm day to day, I'm a content creator, but off the back of that, I've started to build my own brand, both personal brand and then obviously a fashion and a lifestyle brand, which is called LA Space. I'm wearing it today. Bit of a plug.
And what do you think has been like? Because you still reply to all of like your DMs personally now, don't you? And that must be a hell of a lot of work with the amount of people that you've got there.
Yeah, I think it is. But to me, it's the most important part and component of what I do as a business. And so when brands come to me and they want to pay me to promote them, that's what they're getting in the package. They're getting my genuine connections with other people. I know certain people are going to love certain products and they're going to message me about it and say, do you really like this? Like, do you really believe in this? Why should I get it? And that's kind of like customer service in a way, isn't it? Before I did what I do now, I was cabin crew for Virgin Atlantic. So I was 10 years flying. Very similar job in that it's all about the customer. So now it's my followers that are the customer. And for me, my day-to-day is being a customer service kind of ambassador for brands.
And how do you kind of make sure that you're maintaining that authenticity, like when you're scaling influence as well? Because people can see, I imagine, straight through like something that you don't believe in or that you're not that into.
I think that I'm in a fortunate position where maybe I don't have to promote everything that comes through the door. I've got a management team, so everything I make decisions on isn't just my decision. We sit and discuss it together. So I've got a bit of a kind of like, sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees. And especially in the early days when it's so exciting to get offered money to just wear an outfit that you would have worn anyway, I think that the shine of that wears off very quickly. And then you realise, actually, this is a brand and you've got to make decisions based on the brand, not on what I want to do. So in that sense, it's quite easy, I would say. In terms of authenticity, I think you're either authentic or you're not. You're either going to tell the truth or you're not. And there's certain types of people that translate well online. It's like a skill in itself, I would say. And I think that, touch wood, I'm still okay. But if I do check myself, sometimes I film something and I think, yeah, would I say that? And then I might refilm it. And I think that's quite honest. I'm sure lots of people do that.
And what advice would you give to brands that are looking to leverage like influencers in that way to kind of drive growth for their brands?
I think do your homework, obviously get the stats and the back end. But also, I mean, if you're working in social media, for example, are you following and consuming that person's content? I think you need to be a fan almost to work with them, to really understand the nuances. A good example for me is that like my husband's got cancer, and that's been quite a big storyline in my social media for the last 2 years. And rather than ignoring it, I kind of brought it in and made it front and center because that's a real life thing to go through. And it's not a sob story. It's just we're living with this thing that's not ideal. And I think it's important that when I work with brands, they know that, because it's certainly certain storylines or certain projects might not be appropriate now. So it's just kind of like handling knowing your influencer, but also knowing everything about them, almost like become a fan of them before you work with them.
And understand what makes them tick as well, because that's how you get the authenticity.
I think you'll get the most out of them. I think if you build a relationship with them as a person, the amount of organic content I create is quite a lot. Probably 80% of my content is just organic and not getting paid for it. So I think that's important as well. Look at what creators are quite willing to just create content for the love of it as opposed to add. Because we kind of want to know them, don't we? We obviously want to be sold to now and then, but fundamentally they've bought into Lorna. They've not bought into whatever brand of the day I'm flogging.
And what do you think, like, some of the mistakes are that brands are making, like when they're either working with an influencer, or how can they create that more meaningful connection?
I know that one of the biggest mistakes I've made as a brand owner has been to just assume that if I spray and pray my product to loads of influencers and I say a few cute messages, that they're going to do something with it. I think we're in an era now where everybody expects to get paid. And especially as a content creator, you know, if I'm going out for lunch with a PR or whatever, I'm like, well, you're getting paid to be here. So, you know, when am I going to get a kickback? What if I'm going to create all this content and put all this energy into it? What's my kickback? So it's becoming a bit more business orientated, I would say. But what most brands will find with me is that if I'm on a retainer for 6 months or a year or whatever, or even on just a couple of gigs, they'll get some organic, authentic content as well, because I'll be using that product. I've been using it for a while. And I think look for those creators that do that, because to me, they're the people I follow. The creators that genuinely love the products they use, and they're not just talking about them with an ad at the bottom every time. They're the ones I think are the best at that.
And have you used any influencers for your brand?
So I have.
Not are you, like, really critical though, when you're like, oh, I would do it this way, or I think it should be done that way? Are you just happy to let them do it?
I'm not, but also as well, I've got the luxury of, like, this is my day-to-day job. So I sit on my phone all day looking at other people's content. So I'm not going in dry. Like, I know these people, we've lubed each other up, we've got a relationship. And I think I've got, in that sense, I've had a bit of a leg up. But it's lovely to see other people, like, wear your stuff or, promote your product in a way you didn't expect. I think sometimes go in a little bit free and a bit loose and see what they come up with, what's their creative on it, because it might not be what you initially envisioned, but it might actually do a lot better.
And what do you think helps drive, like, the most engagement and also, like, sales as well? Because I imagine that's a big part of content creation, isn't it? It's got to drive revenue for the brands.
Yeah, I mean, I'm learning all about that at the minute. Ultimately, the reach is the key, right? So if you're not putting spend behind an ad and you're just hoping that the content is going to organically grow and get eyes on it, then it's got to be authentic to the creator. If it's that, you've got a specific thing that you want to see this creator say, and you're honest about that, and you say, but I'm going to put a load of spend behind it and we're going to push it out there, then that's fine. I've just had a really strange experience with a brand, I'm not going to name and shame, where they'd asked me to create content, which was actually quite decent content for TikTok. TikTok's not really my platform, but I'm giving it a whirl. I'm in my 40s, so it gets stressful. And this ad went out and they put a lot of spend behind it. So the views were in the millions, but they turned off the comments. Now, that doesn't sit right with me, because I'm somebody that replies to all my comments. That's where the value is for me as a person. And, I think it's a really important part of the story. Now, maybe they turned off the comments because they didn't want anyone slagging off the products. I don't know. But I think as a brand, that is not a good way to operate. In this era of social media where everybody goes to the comments first anyway, I think you've got to be really smart about not trying to edit or kind of curate your own version of what you want to see. You've got to be a bit more loose and ready to stand up for yourself.
It's like you like curating how you want the community to completely be, and then there's no room for people to.
There's no room. And people see it and it puts you off a bit. And I did think, it's still there, it's still up now. And I look at that content and it frustrates me, because I think, I don't want to be edited in that way. I want to be, people say mean things to me, like, it's just life, isn't it? But I also want people to know how I would respond to that, because I've got young girls following me that should see how I as a woman would behave when given crap, but also how I engage when I'm given positive feedback. It's really important. So yeah, just a little story for me.
And so what kind of inspired you to go down the route of, like, launching your own brand? Because I've been following you since I first saw you on the In the Style documentary years ago.
Oh God.
And but that's kind of like where I began following you, and then, bought into, like, the In the Style products that you brought out and that range. So what's made you kind of transition from doing, like, collaborations to thinking, no, I want to do my own thing now?
I'd really enjoyed doing that. So for about 5 years, I think it was, I created fashion collections for a fast fashion brand. So I think it kicked off in around 2016, 17. And what we did there was really quite different in the space at the time, because it was one of the first any brand really I'd seen where their collections were all created by celebrities or influencers, and you could have as much or as little interest in creating that collection as you wanted. And me being that person, I was like, I want to get my sleeves rolled up. I'm going to learn everything about this business. I'm going to do my own. So I was really quite involved in each collection, and it was really successful. I think what my issue became was that me as my business grew and my own income grew, I didn't want to wear a £40 dress anymore, and I also wanted to use natural fibres. I wanted a silk skirt or whatever. So all those things were personal to me, where I thought I want to do something of my own, so I have complete freedom of creating my own product. But also it just came to that moment where I thought I could do this on my own, and I've really, touch wood, enjoyed it. But it's it's not an easy thing to do. I had to start with a lot of capital. I probably sunk £500,000 into my brand, and we haven't to date turned a profit. So I think it's been a real learning curve for me. I was a classical pianist at uni. Like, I've got no learnings in terms of finance or brand building of any sort. This is all just winging it. But sometimes I think being that naive and just chucking yourself in there actually pays off, because you're just a bit of a kind of why not person. Like, if someone says no, I'm like, well, why? And so I'm just constantly going, why? And then I've just built a team of people that work for me that are exceptional at what they do. So hiring good people, that's really where I've probably done well.
And it's a massive change, isn't it? I suppose, going from that journey of selling other people's products to then selling your own.
And also as well, from my perspective, I've got to fund this brand. So I've still got a day job as a content creator. So I can't piss off the brands that I still work with. I don't want to kind of overcommit and just be a kind of LA space, dummy that all she talks about. It's a real fine line, actually. It's a lot of fun, but it's quite stressful.
And like, how are you like leveraging your personal brand as well, like to really kind of drive the fashion business forward?
I think that my personal brand was always really strong from the get-go. I remember when I started my Instagram account, Lorna was taken. So I was like, well, what am I going to call myself? And my number plate was Luxe. Don't ask. It was just a random thing. I don't know why I got that. So I just thought, I'll be Lorna Luxe. And actually that kind of then people assumed back in the day that I was like this very luxurious person. And I thought I quite like that. It's quite a nice branding angle. So I kind of ran with it. And throughout everything, I've always been a bit of a high-low girl. So I do like to shop in River Island, New Look, all those places. But I would always have a pair of Chanel shoes on, or, a nice handbag. So I kind of carried that branding. And I think that it's really important that an influencer has their own personal brand. So all good content creators will have their own personal brand. And what I mean by that is everybody that follows them or consumes their content knows the pillars of what they represent. They don't deviate. You kind of understand who they are. So then when I talk about my brand, my community completely understand it, because it's authentically me talking about it.
Scripted about it.
There's no scripted, and it's not all positive. I'm not someone that is negative online. That's just a decision I made ages ago. But fundamentally, they're getting quite a raw take from my side. And that's why I know deep down LA space at the minute is growing in terms of sales because of me talking about it. The luxury is when you can walk away. And for me, I don't think that's going to happen for a very long time.
I don't think it ever really does happen. Like, as a business owner, like, I feel like you've always
be pushing.
Yeah, always. And then you'll reach the goal that you want to reach, and then there'll be a new goal.
Yeah.
And the same problems that you had, at the beginning, you'll think, oh, I could just get past that. And then you do, and then a bigger problem comes and you're like, oh, fuck, now I've really got to get past this one.
Yeah.
But how do you kind of see like the relationship between brands and creators evolving? Like, now we are in a bit of a new era of content creation, and is it getting a bit saturated?
No, not at all. I think we're in a really smart position at the minute, because when you've got Instagram, which was always about the community, and effectively, unless you were following someone, you wouldn't really consume content. You might go on the explore page now and then, but fundamentally you went on Instagram to consume the people you followed. And that's why people like me thrived in lockdown, because we had a big following and brands knew that if they wanted eyes on their product, we were the people to go to. And then TikTok just kind of flew. And the beauty of TikTok is that you could have 200 followers and create a piece of content and it could absolutely fly. So it really is an opportunity to tap into maybe creators that are much smaller, that aren't charging massive fees, but are actually creating really nice, beautiful content, maybe put a little bit of spend behind it and actually get the same reach you would have got from paying me 20 grand to do the same thing on Instagram. So I think there's a really nice position for a brand. The algorithm's obviously changing constantly. It's just the Wild West, isn't it? And you just have to be really reactive and ready to kind of change it up a bit.
And just as like a parting piece of advice for brands in the room today, and they maybe haven't started with influencer marketing, is there any kind of advice that you would give on how best to get started doing it?
I mean, like I said before, like become a fan. So, once you've found a few people, it's quite tribal. Influencing is quite tribal. So if you like one person's piece of content, have a check out and see who they're mates with, see who's doing it. But probably one person they're all copying. That's just the way it works. And then I think meet people like face to face. I think a lot of my business comes from true connections. Most of the brands I work with now are usually I've known them a fair while. And I think that relationship, even when someone is very small as a creator, the PR girls that backed me in 2015 or whatever, and yeah, they'd moved around to lots of brands, but I've stuck with them and I'll always give them the time of day because of that. So I think connection in real life, as scary as that is for some people, is quite important.
I think it is now. Like, I feel like we're all done with like Zoom meetings and over the phone. And like, that's why doing stuff like this and getting to meet people face to face is like invaluable.
Yeah, I'm not a big Zoom fan.
No, it's boring now. Well, thank you so much. That was amazing.
Thank you. Thanks very much.